Titus is what Dancer did not want me to become. He's like Harmony. He's a creature of vengeance. A rebellion with Titus at the helm would fail in weeks. Worse, if Titus continues this way, continues unstably, he puts me at risk. All right, good evening, Charles. Low Charles, how we doing?
Doing good.
How's it going over there? You good?
Yeah, it's same. Things keep going.
You know, I was going to try and pretend like we weren't just talking for the last hour, but I'm not a good enough actor to pull that off. So, hello again, old friend. Good to see you. Today now we have chapter 29, Unity, and chapter 30, which is House Diana. Chapter 29, we're going to dive into a couple themes here. Couple big ones. We've got justice and revenge. You just hit on a little bit of both, but we dive into them a little bit more extensively in the chapter Unity. It gets pretty intense. Justice, maybe along with organized religion, is the two major building blocks or cornerstones of all societies. So why is this in the school? Because they're learning what is justice and what isn't justice. And the fact that you are organized enough to have the ability to pass something like justice denotes a certain level of advancement for a civilization. The thing about justice is it's never exactly right. It doesn't necessarily leave anybody feeling complete or good or satisfied or exactly happy, because you always feel like, you've been wronged. And whether it's a monetary gain or a prison sentence or death sentence, like, it doesn't necessarily give you back the thing that you lost or that was taken from you. So the person on the receiving end of justice gets whatever, but the person who is supposed to be satisfied by that justice has to learn to live with some level of acceptance for that lacking. And that's kind of like an unspoken agreed thing within a society. And then revenge, the uglier side of justice. Although you were talking about documentaries, we just watched one about the yogurt shop murders on HBO. And one of the killers or supposed killers is convicted and then let out of prison. And the father of one of the victims basically is like, those guys should watch their back, because there are a lot of unhappy people out there. And the wife says there are unhappy people out there that might harm them. And she says, you might want to take revenge. And they like zoom in on the dad and he says, which might be justice. So they're two sides of the same coin in a lot of cases. The thing about revenge and why revenge denotes a lower grade of civilizational growth, if you're still in that revenge phase of what your justice looks like, it is the type of societal advancement where vendettas and family blood feuds, they are the main driving force between how people interact or groups interact. And once you get past that civilizationally, you are now at the next tier where laws and justice and legal systems become a major driving factor. And really it's the understanding of bigger things than your little group, you have to understand what law is, and you have to have faith in those systems. You have to put faith in those systems. And you can't do that if you're at that lower level of, well, he took my thing, so I'm going to take his thing. He killed my brother, so I'm going to kill his whole family. And you see that in the tribal communities and tribal groups. Like, that is why they go to war. Yes, they go to war for corn or water access or fishing rights or whatever, but they also just go to war for the vendetta type reason. And so I think that's why the two, you start to see them, they have basically their own chapter of formulating those two things, getting rid of revenge. Well, hopefully, I mean, as we'll see, revenge is actually the problem here, is that Darrow has a moment where he has the opportunity to bring House Mars to that next civilizational level, and he does he opts out of it to give his friend something. And so now House Mars is still at that low grade evolution. And like Mustang said, they need to hurry up and evolve. And they can't if they're going to base their system of justice on revenge. And Darrow doesn't see it like that at first, but once he gets into it, he recognizes, oh, I've missed
I
an
fucked up.
opportunity here. Yeah, exactly. And so I'm going to just dive right into the recap. Let me move your little head. I have picture in picture here. And
Well, the only other thing I could add was, while the civilization isn't set up before laws and civilization has grown, and the two sides of the coin of justice and revenge, it's all matter of like perspective, how they're looked at. And it's like,
absolutely.
I see it as this is justice, and they see it as revenge. It reminds me of like The Last of Us, and how Abby comes back and kills Joel, and like she sees it as justice, but it gets all confusing. But yeah, it's matter of perspective.
And even for you and I, like, I believe in justice, and there are cases where I'm like, yeah, revenge, if you want to call it revenge, it's wearing the same clothing as justice.
Yep.
You rape and murder a kid, I think you should probably catch a bullet. Whether that's delivered by a authority figure or the legal system, or by the parent or sibling of that kid, I don't care who delivers that sentence, but I'm pretty sure that someone should. But I also understand and recognize, a life sentence should also be factored in. I don't know. That's where it's pretty murky.
And a side question, do you think a life sentence or death is more harsh? Like if
Death.
somebody, all right. You think death is complete and total, where some people believe that like a life sentence is actually a bigger punishment.
I do not. What about you?
I think death as well. I think that's the ultimate, punishment. That's the like, you're done. You're out of this world. Fuck off. Whatever it is you did.
I think Joseph Conrad said it in Heart of Darkness, that and I'm paraphrasing, I say this, I'm never going to get a quote right. I'm always just going to paraphrase it, so just be okay with that. But he said something to the effect of, like, the human mind is the only thing that can make a heaven out of hell and a hell out of heaven. And yeah, you put somebody in a box, and sure, it's not great, it's not ideal, they can't go to McDonald's, they can't go on a date, they can't do all the stuff that they want to do, but they can find a way to be happy. Or to have pleasant moments and think about things and be okay. And they're not ended. They're not deleted from existence.
What if you're in a box under a dining table in pure darkness for a year straight?
Did it break him?
Well, no, he's Darrow, but would it have broken anyone else?
I don't know. Think about the Hanoi Hilton. There are people who have been in, think about the survivors of the Holocaust. There are people that came out of that, and they're poets. There were people writing poetry in there, on they little strips of leather and stuff.
Yeah. All right. We still agree. Death.
Yeah, death all the way. But then again, like, this is not the podcast for this conversation, but it's good to know.
I'd ask.
No, it's a good question. I think it's totally, but me, I could start ranting, and then 30 minutes later it would be like, all right, back to the recap.
Yeah, you need the Master Maker hat.
um, all right, so the recap here. Darrow has won in the battle against Mustang, but he doesn't have a complete victory yet. Titus lingers and needs to be appropriately punished. And who decides that and then carries out the punishment is kind of the conversation we've just been having. But knowing, or now knowing what Titus is, there's an extreme amount of danger for Darrow, not just in how he could fuck up his leadership role, but, does Titus draw the attention of the proctors, and does he, in his final moments, call out that he's a red and that he's been carved, and maybe then there's more scrutiny put on everybody because now they've got to really find out, there's a carved red in here. Well, let's look at all of them, and oh shit, this Andromedus kid really came out of nowhere and came in hot. Let's look deeper into him. I don't know. I'm sure that that's crossing Darrow's mind, though. So he not only has to pass a sentence, but he has to do it quickly, because he can't have Titus just kind of lingering in the background for an extended period of time. So instead of a trial and instead of a sense of real justice, Darrow passes a death sentence by fiat. Nobody really can argue that Titus doesn't deserve this. And nobody does. Nobody stands in Titus's corner and says, well, what about due process and all that? Because, again, we're not at that point of a developed enough society to have due process. That requires, again, more loose ideas and deep philosophical agreements between community members that they'll imbue a fictitious thing with real consequences and weight. Because that's what laws are. They really aren't things. They are a tacit societal agreement amongst neighbors that they will follow the same set of rules in the hopes that you don't do bad things to me and I won't do bad things to you. We've just all agreed that that's an important part of living in a civilized society.
When luckily, you're not, gladly it works.
Yes, and it has worked for a very long time, but it worked for a lot longer without it. I mean, we don't. That's where they are at this point in the Institute. While he passes the sentence, Cassius reminds Darrow that, well, he kind of owes him the Titus punishment because Cassius claimed it. And Darrow is put in a bit of a pickle because he, knows that Titus didn't actually kill Julian. And so giving Cassius Titus for the murder of his brother is a really big lie.
Yeah. That could blow up.
And it's a lie that could blow up in his face, but also, how does that stain you? Later we'll learn that there are characters who have stains, and it's people that they've killed for their owner at that point, but they have stains that they keep on them forever. They count them. They accrue these stains, and this is a stain that Darrow is accruing. He's little by little becoming the monster that he's been assigned and devoted his existence to destroying. And this lie to Cassius, and then allowing Titus to die for that reason. Now, obviously, he's dying for other reasons, but putting Titus to the sword in Cassius's hand is a really dark thing that he'll never be able to undo. And Darrow, I think, knows that. I think he, as you're reading through, he's acknowledging, like, this is dark. I'm becoming Dark Darrow. And he does it. He allows Cassius to actually follow through with the execution, even though Darrow knows that it's wrong, and everybody else does. Roke knows it. Quinn knows it. Ultimately, Titus's people know it. Darrow's people know it. The only person in the room that's probably doesn't care who does it, but just wants it to be done is Severo. Like, I'm sure Severo would be cool if Darrow told him to do it. He doesn't care. but it's a bad move because, well, I guess it's a bad move because it furthers the betrayal towards Cassius, so that when Cassius does find out, he has very few options. It's really, he is being put in a position where he's now murdering somebody because of a lie that Darrow has made about a murder that Darrow committed.
But what about the betrayal where he claimed Titus and he's like, "You promised me he's mine." And if he just went back on that and he's like, "No, no, no, I did promise you, Cassius, that I'll let you kill him." But that, like, there's that betrayal too. He's stuck between a rock and a hard place.
That's a small B betrayal.
Yeah, I see that point. Yeah.
Because if Cassius finds out, oh, actually Darrow killed my brother. It's a good thing that I didn't kill Titus.
Yeah.
There's a potential where you could come back and say, hey, I know I killed your brother, but I didn't want you to kill some person just because you believed the wrong thing.
Yeah.
In this one, it's like, not only did I kill my brother, but I killed some fucking kid.
Yeah, you
because
used me.
You made me believe that.
Yeah. Good point.
And on top of that, it's like you're making someone who's essentially innocent guilty over something that they don't have the full information about. Like, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
And the execution is brutal. It's long, and at its finale, it's unsatisfactory. Throughout the execution, Cassius is taking his time with it. He's really letting Titus bleed out. He's cutting him to pieces, and as he's doing it, he's saying, "You killed my brother," I think he's saying, "You killed Julian." Let me see. You killed Julian O. Bologna of House Bologna. And he just repeats that. You killed Julian, as he's striking Titus over and over, which is just furthering what we're just talking about. That, like, he's not only doing this because of a lie, but he's punctuating every single sword stroke with the lie. Yeah. That's how much he believes this.
It's hammering it home. I just thought, as you read that, I just thought of Princess Bride, where he's just like, "I am whatever.
You killed my father.
You killed my father. Prepare to die." But this is less funny.
Less funny and much bloodier.
Yeah. And, well, do you think deep down maybe also Darrow was a little afraid of Titus? Because he's not a sword fighter. He went through his body modification, this mind modification, and he is a beast, but he doesn't know how to fight with a sword, and be thrown in against Titus, who's still a beast of a dude. A little bit, too. He was probably relieved that he could push this off onto Cassius.
Yeah, and we'll find out in the next chapter, immediately following the execution of Titus, he's like, oh, I got to learn the sword from Cassius. Because, like, he's clearly very good at it. And I also think there's a little potential where he's being a coward in the sense that he doesn't want to kill a Red.
Yeah, he doesn't want to kill one of his own. Yeah, that's true.
He is afraid to pass a death sentence on one of his own people.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's cowardice. I don't know. Maybe that's not. I'm not passing judgment. I just think it's an interesting dynamic. It's another one of these weird, like, this is a very short moment in this book, but you could talk about it for hours because of how many layers of deceit and self-deceit and friction points there are.
Yeah. Lots.
In the aftermath of the killing, Darrow has power, but not respect. And that's not just from Titus's crew. He also has lost some respect from his own group. They saw this whole thing as a pretty messy affair. They also, like you said at the feast, aren't really sure why the rest of Titus's crew hasn't really gotten any comeuppance. I'm sure that's confusing as hell to be like we talked about. One minute you're decrying the evils of his entire band of swarthy characters, and then the next minute they're fighting next to you and eating next to you and sleeping next to you. In fact, they talk about that too, where like they're sleeping and there's a clear delineation between the groups, and it's just it had the opposite effect of what Darrow was trying to achieve.
Yes.
And respect is, as you know, that's the currency of leadership.
It's everything
Because,
that, and it's the first test he has as a leader, and he basically fucked it up. And it's that quickly you can lose the control, you can lose power over what you had, and it's
and
it
and it's
unfortunately
bad.
happens. Yeah,
You know, at this point, he is so so unsteady in his power that Antonia, who is always conniving and always maneuvering in the background, in the next chapter, she'll basically tell him, like, oh, yeah, I'm just waiting for the right moment to sell you out to an opposing tribe. I've gotten
yeah,
offers. It's just not been the right time.
yeah.
So he knows that he's really got to hit every single beat here in a way that maintains his position, or else he's going to wake up with a dagger in his back.
That's one thing I must
Um,
say about that family is they're very blunt. They're very straightforward.
it's what makes Victra
Yeah,
my second favorite character, is that there is no mystery to her. And I think that is really an interesting juxtaposition with Mustang, because Mustang's kind of mysterious. She's
yeah,
so intelligent that you don't know how her brain is
yeah. You
working.
can't
You
read
don't
her.
know why and you don't know why she's doing what she's doing until it all unfolds. Um, Whereas, and she keeps things from Darrow, from the reader, from everybody around her. Whereas Victra is very much like, no, I'll fuck you up if I decide that you're no longer somebody that I
Useful
want to
or
be around
yeah,
with.
yeah.
um, and so after the punishment, and he recognizes he's made a mistake here and that there is a better way to do this. Fitchner makes an appearance. Apparently, Proctor's. This doesn't really need to be figured out, but it is a thing that apparently, if you achieve something within the game of the Institute, the proctors show up and give you whatever you demand, some
Yeah.
arbitrary prizes.
Reward.
Yeah, a reward's a better, prize is not the right word. Reward's the right word there. And Fitchner's basically like, what do you want? But before he gets there, they have a conversation about the school and the efficiency of the school, and how by uh, we've said it ad nauseum at this point, but it bears repeating, that this is a microcosm of the world outside, of the hierarchy of the society. And we have it condensed in a way that you learn more here than you would if you were in an old fashioned school with books and tests and all of that. The Golds recognized we have the low colors to do all of that. We don't need to learn science because we have greens and yellows. We don't need to learn how to build things. We have oranges and reds. What we need to learn how to do is to rule. And the best way to do that is to give you the ability to learn how to rule on your own. Make mistakes. They say it in here. You learn more from the mistakes than you do from success. That's an old saying, but basically that's what Fitchner is telling Darrow. Like, you're fucking up. You better learn quickly. He's echoing what Mustang was saying.
Evolve.
Evolve,
Yeah.
or you're gonna end up fucked. And that's Fitchner saying, like, learn fast. And there's a little interplay here where they also talk about, like, what are acceptable losses. And I thought that was interesting, where he's talking about how, yeah, the board of quality control sets a certain number as acceptable losses every year. So the school is like, yeah, we're expecting 12% of the population to die this year, and that's an acceptable amount of golds to die, which is dark as hell.
Yeah. brutal.
And then there's a brief mention that I think works towards foreshadowing where Proctor Apollo is brought up and his real dislike of Darrow. Fitchner is giving him a little bit of a warning there of tread lightly, take this guy seriously. He is a dangerous actor. And Darrow being Darrow is kind of like, fuck it. He's nothing to me. And then they dive into why Fitchner is trying so hard to be something he appears not to be.
But
you
yes,
know, he's a powerful Red. He is a proctor in the world of the hierarchy. He is a meaningful factor, somebody to be considered. But he doesn't have a fleet under his command. He doesn't control an army. He's not in the governing body. He doesn't control planets or moons or anything like that. And Darrow is questioning, like, how powerful are you, really? You're basically just a teacher. And at the end of the day, yeah, when we were in 5th grade, teachers were a powerful figure of authority. By the time we were in high school, it was kind of like, oh, you suck. No, we had great teachers, yeah. Dr. Klug for life, but no, but I mean, we were
how
just
far
like,
is he going with this?
Like you said, they were just people. They were like, they were a low grade, maybe the lowest on the totem pole when it comes to authority figures at a certain point. And Darrow is at that point where he's like, Fitchner, you're
how cocksure like Darrow is of himself. Like I'm 16, I'm this new gold body, and all of a sudden I'm thrown into this institute, this world, and gold's rule, and then he's like calling out another gold who's supposed to be his instructor or teacher or proctor, and he's like, who the fuck are you? Like, you're nothing. I just took over this house. Shut up, give me my prize.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty bold, and I wouldn't advise anybody who is younger and maybe listening to then all of a sudden enact that style of communication with your teachers. But
yeah, it doesn't work.
Again, he's highlighting what we were just talking about with the unspoken agreement that a teacher is a powerful and important person in a student's life. And at a certain point, as you get older and you get more understanding of how the world works, you realize like, oh, well, their power all derives from how much you care about them giving you detention or extra homework. And if you don't give a fuck, you can tell them you're not that big a deal. I don't give a shit. So it's I think it's a sliding scale of give a fuck.
Yeah.
How many fucks do you give?
Given.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What is your meter at? How many do you have in the chamber? And then Fitchner gives a little bit of a warning to Darrow that echoes what Mustang was saying, where he gives Darrow the rewards for the success in battle, and then he leaves him with a warning about the jackal. Which I actually have as one of my quotes, so I'm just going to leave it to that. So that's the recap of the chapter. Do you have anything to add? Anything I missed in there?
No, hell no. Just the fact that he gave him shit too. He's like, you owed me multiple rewards. He's like, not only did I do all this, took down Titus, he's like, you owe me. So that was the only other thing that I remember.
In one of the, I didn't do the quote, but one of the rewards is he gets horses for House Mars. And there's a stallion that is, pretty lively. And Darrow claims that horse as his own. And everybody names it Quietus. And Darrow thinks that it's he thinks it's a badass name. Oh, the Final Stroke. That's cool. What he learns later is that it's his own troops and Titus's troops mocking him for the death of Titus, or his part in the punishment of Titus. Excuse me, I thought I had to sneeze. All right, so the first quote I wanted to, and this goes to what I was saying when you were talking about it earlier about staining and making, bringing Cassius into this, and he says, Titus's instability puts every red ever carved into a gold at risk. He puts Eo's dream at risk, and that is something I cannot abide. Eo did not die so that Titus can kill a few kids. I sob in the armory as I resolve what must be done. More blood will stain these hands because Titus is a mad dog and must be put down. So clearly he understands that he is stacking up stains that he cannot get rid of. So he's conscious of that throughout. Later, the next page, he says, how loyalties shift here. How my own shift. I will make a red dye because he killed golds. He dug the earth like me. He has a soul like mine. In death, it will go to the veil. But in life, he was stupid and selfish with his grief. He should have been better than this. Reds are better than him, aren't we? So what we were talking about, like, does he not want to kill a red? Is that maybe why he kicks this off to Cassius? But then he's also starting to recognize, we saw it with Mustang, that some of them are human. Oh, Cassius is crying over his dead brother, repeatedly mentioned. That's a human quality. Oh, reds can do shitty things? That doesn't seem, I thought we were victims.
Yep.
You know, it raises the question, are victims above crime? You know, can a victimized community be excused for doing something heinous just because they are a victimized community?
No.
Chuck, what are the answers to these questions?
Just saying, no, like, yeah, you could still be a victim and still do horrible, horrible shit. And then your victim status or whatever happens means nothing. Like, you can, to a point, the name of the show, the Sons of Ares, like, they were all victims. But then when you start blowing up buildings and children, you kind of fucking cross the line a little bit. So
you lose the victim, or I guess that's a question neither one of us can answer, but do you lose the victimhood if you start victimizing others?
I believe yes. Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
how do you?
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would totally agree. But then it raises the question, okay, so then what do you do if you're a victim and you're looking to regain a footing and power? How do you do that without the potential collateral damage, and how do you do it without making your enemy or the person who's controlling you or whatever feel equal pain to what you're feeling?
Yeah, because you have no law or civilization that like sides with you. So
back to the theme, is that justice?
Okay.
If a victim makes their victimizer feel an equal amount of pain, is that justice?
When there's no other recourse? Sure.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So you're on the side of you're on the side of victims and terrorists.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's going to come back full circle. But if there's no other recourse, there's the society's built to keep you down, destroy you. You have no rights. Anyone can willingly pick up a red and just do horrible things to them, and you can't do shit about it. I tell you, I would probably do something horrible too. But
you heard it here first, Charles. Yeah. Dangerous waters you swim in, my friend.
Yeah, you'll cut it all out.
No, that's getting clipped up and put on Instagram. The next line that I thought was interesting is it just gives you a sense of the inexorable nature of what's coming towards Titus.
Yeah.
Titus is meant for brawls, meant for muddy battlefields and civil wars. I wonder if he knows how easily he will die today. So just kind of another like, this, he knows Cassius is going to tear him apart. What happens if Titus wins?
I don't think, I mean, anything's possible, right? You always had a hope. You put two people together any given Sunday, but
what does Darrow have in mind?
I mean, Cassius has been training for this his whole life. He shouldn't.
But you know the deal. Lose. What if he trips? Yeah. What if he backpedals and he slips and then Titus is on top of him and he can't use his sword and then Titus crushes him?
So
what is Darrow's gameplay then?
It would completely destroy the house anyway, but he still has to die. Whether he thinks he knows too much, he might blurt out that he's a red. Any other instance, he's like, well, yep, you're right. By the law of combat or whatever, you destroyed and killed my champion. I'm still going to kill you. And there's no other recourse than that. And then the house is going to get divided, guaranteed. But then you got to
they
figure
can
out how
never
to fix
believe
there.
him. They'll also never believe anything he says.
True, but you can't let Titus linger in the game at all.
True.
Yeah. You have to put him down. He is a mad dog, and he could risk everything. He could risk the Sons of Ares. He could risk Eo's dream. So his fate is sealed.
I think that's correct. Next I have, it is Cassius's rage that fills the courtyard, a cruel lament for a kind brother. He said he did it for justice, for the honor of his family and house, but this is revenge, and how hollow it seems. I really like that line. It is Cassius's rage that fills the courtyard, a cruel lament for a kind brother. I just thought that was a nice bit of writing. Good job, Pierce Brown.
Tip of the hat to you.
Tip of the hat.
Yeah.
This is where Darrow comes to the realization that he's failed the test. He says, quite literally, I failed the test. He's right. It wasn't justice. Justice is dispassionate. It is fair. I am the leader. I passed the sentence. I should have done it. Instead, I gave license to vengeance and vendetta. The cancer will not be cut away. I made it worse. Truly recognition, which I think speaks to
it's huge
leader, you know, the fact that he knows that. But just this whole chapter is one giant fuck up.
Yeah.
I didn't have any words, but I didn't have any like phrases or factoids or anything interesting there. But we do have a line here that I think is nerd. I don't know. You'll have to come up with some kind of Chuck creative way of saying it, but
send it. Let's go.
Did you pick up on Fitchner says, good, you make plenty of them. You're an impulsive turd, but this is the place to frag up. Did you notice that? Have you ever watched Battlestar Galactica?
No.
Okay, so in Battlestar Galactica, instead of saying fuck, the characters say frag.
Yep.
So, much like when we talked about Lord of the Rings, in this world, because I don't think it's a common way of saying fucked up, I think it comes from Battlestar Galactica. In the world of Red Rising, Battlestar Galactica had to have existed at some point in the past.
Yes.
For it to be in the lexicon and somebody used the word frag like that. So just all you nerds out there that like Battlestar Galactica, like me, it existed. Somebody's watching it. Fitchner must have seen Battlestar Galactica. And then the last line again is Fitchner. He says, Darrow says, the Jackal, who is he? And Fitchner says, he's the Arch-Governor's son, Darrow, and he makes Titus look like a blubbering child. So
scary
another warning there.
Yeah.
Scary thought indeed. Yeah, I mean, how much more terrifying a person can you be if you make a murderous rapist look like a blubbering child?
Yeah.
And a murderous rapist giant look like a blubbering child.
And the name, the Jackal, is like, I think it's a cool name. It's a great
name. It's a great name.
What was that a movie when he was like a trained assassin? You ever watch that? The Jackal?
It's called The Jackal.
Yeah,
and it stars Bruce Willis and Richard Gere.
Yeah.
And it's a great 90s action movie.
Hell yeah. Poor Bruce Willis. That guy. Going through hell.
Not one of my favorite of the 90s action movie guys, but
Armageddon?
Man, what a
Come
fucking... on. True. We just watched that not too long ago.
Oh,
you know what?
It's awesome.
It doesn't hold up.
It does.
I mean, it does in the way that it's great because it's so bad.
Oh, it's awesome. I just didn't like
Did you?
his daughter in it.
Oh, Liv Tyler?
No, yeah, I didn't care for
What?
her too much. I
What are you talking about?
everyone else I loved in the movie. Jen, like my wife watches it all the time. Like it'll be just popped on and we'll sit and rewatch it. But
It's did you ever see or hear the clip of Ben Affleck doing the director's commentary or whatever?
no, no.
Apparently he got in a fight with Michael Bay at one point because he said to him, and Ben Affleck's drunk during this commentary. You can hear he's like sloshed up. But he said to Michael Bay at one point, he was like, wouldn't it be easier to teach astronauts how to become
Drill?
drillers than
Yeah.
it would be to teach a drill team how to become astronauts? It seems like a bit of a logical
Yeah.
loophole, but
And that's when
but
he's
then
like,
you wouldn't
"Shut the
have
fuck
Mike.
up."
Yeah,
I'm going to
exactly.
pull you off this movie cuz at the time he was kind of not his career didn't really like blow up yet.
Well, he had, yeah, I think it was
Early on in Affleck's
Good Will
career.
Hunting
Yeah.
was kind of the big jump, and then Armageddon comes, and now he's like a bankable
Director
movie
now.
star.
Yeah.
I've not been a big Ben Affleck fan in my life. I think he's kind of
No.
overrated. And what?
The
Never
Town
mind.
was
We're
good.
about to go.
Yeah.
Town's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Town's a great movie. Argo is like,
I
I
never
think
watched that.
Argo. I think it won Best Picture of the year that Mad Max Fury Road was nominated. And it's like, what the fuck are we talking about?
Yeah.
You didn't see Fury Road?
No. No, yes, I
Dude,
did. Yes, I did. Tom
shut the
Hardy.
fuck
Yeah.
up.
Fuck
I'll
yeah, I
kick
did.
you out of
With
here.
Charlize Theron.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
gorgeous.
Fuck right off.
That was I'll watch that anytime. Anything with Tom Hardy is amazing.
All right. So now moving on to chapter 30, which is House Diana. And my number one character in this chapter is Severo.
Yes.
This is your moment to shine.
Yeah.
And the two themes are we have stalemate and honesty among friends. Or I guess a theme would be honesty, but whatever. Stalemate because Mustang and Darrow are fighting each other's strengths. Like I said earlier, there's an echo of the Peloponnesian War here, where Peloponnesian War you had a really strong land force and a really strong navy, and the two strengths were kind of at odds. You couldn't the Athenians couldn't really get the Spartans to meet them on the seas, and so they couldn't win a decisive victory there. And the Athenians weren't willing to fight a land battle because they didn't want to lose. So the Spartans couldn't really come to grips with the Athenians on their strength. And so it just created this long, protracted attritional war that wore them both down, bankrupted both, and just was not, I mean, it was horrific, but what we have here is Darrow's recognizing like neither one of us is able to find an edge. She has a really cunning and tactically brilliant force that is fast. They're mobile, and they're not going to be goaded into taking him on in a pitched combat. They won't besiege the castle. They won't come to grips with him in a pitched battle. And so he can't get this thing called a decisive victory, which is what for most of human history has been the goal of war. You know, a decisive battle. That's my army meets your army on the same field, and in an afternoon, one of us leaves victorious and has crushed the will of the other army to fight. Now, way back in the day, you could do that. There for a very long time, two cities would send a few thousand guys and they would fight it out, and one city would win that war because they couldn't sustain logistically longer campaigns, and so it was truly a matter of an hour. that changes as societies become more complex, and they're able to create food, and they're able to logistically move food from one point to another point, and wait, we have enough to feed 2 armies. And so now you have, in the Roman times, you have multiple armies being fielded by the same state, and they're able to sustain these fights for longer and longer. Mustang and Darrow are at that point in civilizational growth where they can't really sustain it that long. They don't have the ability to produce tons of bread that they can then take on long marches and besiege House Mars indefinitely. But at the same time, they know that if they meet in pitched battle, Mustang is like, I won't win that, so I'm not going to do it. So it's this really gray zone of combat where it's mostly skirmishing and raiding and scouting and what's the term I'm looking for where you surprise an enemy?
Ambush.
A lot of that, which is all very low grade and constantly happening, but it doesn't give you any, it doesn't give you a next level of
an edge
edge against your opponent. It can eventually wear down your opponent in a way that might give you that edge, but it also can wear you down. And so it's not something you want to find yourself in a long, indefinite amount of time. Darrow recognizes that. And so he's got to change that, do another one of his little paradigmatic shift in how he is seeing this situation. And then the honesty amongst friends is Darrow and Severo are finally kind of alone for a good portion of time, and they start to disclose information to each other. And when they do, they both recognize that they don't really want to do that.
Yeah.
And so they know they don't talk about it ever again, which I think is very emblematic of male friendship.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that there are plenty of times where 2 guys will start talking, and then they both know that they know what the other one has done, and so it goes unsaid, and then they'll never ever come back to that.
No,
they'll never tell anybody else.
No, it's not unsaid, but it's understood, and we move on. Yeah.
Yes. It's a coping mechanism.
Yeah. But it's something we both immediately picked up on. And it's like, okay, yeah, this happened. All right, good talk. See you later.
I kind of assumed that you had picked up on that as well. It's definitely one of those like, all right, we'll put a pin on that and never return to it. All right, the recap is the new House Mars is better, but not exactly perfectly gelled as a team yet. Darrow, he can see the flaws, but he's really not sure how to address them. He knows that he's not going to win this long drawn out thing. He knows that half of his guys they're untried and untrustworthy. The other half aren't really sure if he's quite the leader that they thought he was going to be. This whole Titus execution thing is still a lingering shadow that hangs over everything he does. So he also knows that he's got to change how he sees things and how they are going to address these problems. On a personal level, he also, having watched Cassius pick Titus apart like a weird kid with a fly, like pulling the wings off of a fly or the legs off of ants, he recognizes he needs to train and then learn from Cassius. And he does a really smart thing where he says to Cassius, I want you to train me, but we're only going to use straight blades.
Yeah.
He doesn't let Cassius ever train with the sling blade because he wants to have that as a potential advantage. An edge in the future, which I thought was just, another instance where Darrow is this fucking clever thinker who's planning ahead. I don't know if it comes in Red Rising, but it will eventually come into play. And it's very smart that we're laying the groundwork here.
And the other thing, I would see it as, well, Cassius may eventually become an enemy, and if I learn from him, I'll find his tells, his weaknesses, where he's lacking in this fighting style. So not only am I learning from what I have no idea what to do, sword fighting and trying to stay alive, Cassius can teach me that, but now I can find out his flaws and break through that whenever I need to in the future, if that ever happens. So something else to piece in. But as far as the rest of the chapter goes, there comes a point during their training. I'm trying to remember exactly how Darrow doesn't want Cassius to remember the curved blade because, again, as Cullen mentioned, we want to keep that under wraps in case we're going to use it in the future. And now I completely did all the rambling, everything that you said was going to happen. I tried to piece it together, and then it completely went to shit.
Just so the listeners know, I just got a work text and had to address it, so I muted myself. And we had a conversation earlier about Chuck needing to vamp whenever that happens, and you did a really, really shit job. That was epic. A ramble worth remembering.
The funny part is Cullen was done with the text probably within a second, and he just completely
I didn't even
just
get
listened.
A text.
Yeah,
I didn't even get a text.
In. But no, I was trying to piece on how do I go from here? I'm going to continue on the story as if whatever happened. And then I was like, no, I want to leave this spot for Cullen. This is his recap. So I'll just look like a bumbling idiot for no other reason than people's enjoyment.
Wow. What a guy. What a guy. Yeah. So, yes. So it's a clever little bit of maneuvering by Darrow to train with the straight swords. And it is something that will come into play down the road, as we kind of said. The war with Mustang, again, is a doom loop of attrition and stalemate, which is unwinnable for Mars. He especially knows that if they get besieged, they're in a tight situation. They don't have water in their castle, which, as throughout history, you can have plenty of food, but if you don't have water in your castle when you're besieged, you have about 5 days. Now he's a little bit he's a little bit buffered here because in a siege typically on the defense you want a 3-to-1 advantage. In a siege you want to have a 5+1 advantage. And he has enough men to be pretty certain that in a straight up siege, Mustang doesn't have the people to get an advantage and take the castle. But if they just circle up the castle and pen them in, they don't have any water. They have to hollow out logs, and they try digging a well, and they just don't have a consistent way to maintain water, and that is way more important in a siege than food. You can eat boot leather, you can eat horses, you can eat animals, you cannot drink leather, you cannot drink horses. Although Severo brings up you could drink the blood of horses, which has been done. In fact, the Mongols, if they were on very long rides across the steppe of Russia, were known to have little needles that they would puncture the artery of a horse with, and they would drink the blood, and it would work as also as a like a food source because you'd have iron and protein and all that, and it but just enough so that the horse wouldn't suffer from it. It wouldn't like injure the horse. But yeah, so it's definitely a thing that can and has been done, but it would not sustain you through a days or weeks long siege.
Now, do you think there ever would be an opportunity for them to dig a successful well within the House Mars, or was that something set up by the Institute to make it like, no, it's plated underneath the ground so many feet or something?
Yeah. I think basically the goal of the Proctors with House Mars is to make it as uncomfortable at their castle as possible so that they're out there ravaging and reaving and raiding. But yeah, so that's their situation. And as they are realizing the dangers of their situation, Severo is clearly growing into a significant part of the team. He's a significant part of the house, and because of his vicinity to Darrow, he's gaining prestige and power within the larger group. In fact, this is where we officially form what will be the I think the best ragtag team of nobodies.
I think the Dirty Dozen.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, we're talking the lowest of the low, and these are the Howlers. They are as they originally were instituted, there were 6 of them. It's Severo, Thistle, Screwface, Clown, Pebble, and Weed. And these are the people that Cassius was pointing out at the very beginning of the Institute as
the
being
dregs.
The dregs, and Priam, whatever you want to call him, was like, oh, no, my good man, I think they'll be quite a good salt of the earth, my old chap. And so Severo has put his little team together, and we will never know their actual names, but they will all have a place in our hearts going forward.
Some of them change names, but
Yep.
yeah. But what I liked at first, like he was given these 6 guys and gals, and then Severo was like, I don't know what to fucking do with them, and like ignored them in the beginning until finally he's like, oh, I'm gonna like shape them and mold them.
Well, he truly treats them like a wolf, like an alpha.
Well, that's good point.
You know, you see like in dogs and wolf packs, like the leader ignores other dogs unless they want something from them or they're giving them something. They're not like fucking around with them. One thing
that's cool
that I do want to correct us here. We say that we never know their names. However, there is one of them that we do know their name. Do you recall?
All right. So what are the original 6? What are their
Thistle, Screwface, Clown, Pebble, and Weed. One of them changes or turns coat.
Yeah, that's yeah. So I figured his name it's going to be a fake name, but Screwface we end up finding he changes his name.
Well, but Thistle.
Oh shit! Yeah, I totally forgot about that.
I did too until we just said it. But at a certain point, Thistle is no longer whatever, and at that point, somebody does refer to her by her name
on the ship, right? She was like Diamond out. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yep. Okay, so moving
little
on.
Thistle bitch.
Well, now.
Sorry. You're a howler, all right? You have
you had it
rules
so good
to follow, yeah.
Darrow quickly learns that too many cooks can make for very unproductive meetings, and he's gathered kind of a war council, and he's trying to explain to everybody what his plan is, and everybody's talking over each other and coming up with their own ideas and saying they can and can't do this or whatever. And at a certain point, Darrow has to actually stand up and yell for quiet, which is never a good sign. If you are the war leader or the warlord, you should be the only voice really heard unless you're telling someone specifically to speak. It speaks to his tenuous position of power right now, that everybody feels comfortable enough to just kind of talk over and around him until he has to physically force them to shut up. And it's at that point that he lays out a bit of where he thinks things need to go. He's essentially saying what we need to do is we need to turn the game on its head. We need to be the house that is going out and making alliances and turning the other tribes against each other. Mars has always been the house that is used by everybody else to do this. We need to now be the ones that is doing it to them. And what he's going to do is he decides that they're going to use a diplomatic mission to the forest where House Diana is, and they're going to try and team up with Diana to take down Mustang. And And in the process, he will also be able to take out House Ceres, or that's the plan. He leaves Cassius in charge while he's gone, because Darrow needs to be the clear leader and voice of House Mars in this diplomatic mission. And if he's got the beautiful Chin next to him while he's talking to the people of Diana, he's concerned that that might take some of his shine. He also needs somebody he trusts to do the right thing and be good while he's away. I think that's part of the reason why he picked Cassius.
Especially with Antonia still back at the house, and who knows what she could scheme up.
And I also think it's a moment where he can clearly define who's in charge. Because Cassius pushes back and is like, well, are you ordering me to do that? Because you don't give me orders. And Darrow says, yes, I do. And here's why, but also I said to do it, so fucking do it.
Yeah.
Which is an important moment to not just the audience that's in the room, but also for Cassius to realize, oh, Darrow is actually the person in charge right now. So Severo and Darrow bond quickly, like I was saying, and apparently deeply on their journey to the forest where House Diana lives. And upon entering the woods, they're brought to the head of House Diana, a girl named Tamara.
Tamara?
And Tamara. And we also meet a very nasty little fellow, a real piece of work named Tactus, who I think of as Severo without humor or a heart.
Yeah. There's a lot of similarities between the two of them.
And he's very early on, you're like, oh, this guy's a real piece of shit. And he will prove to be...
Yeah, quite the piece of shit. And he's one of those ones growing up, you would be like, you need to get punched in the face. Like
repeatedly.
Yes.
Repeatedly. Tamara knows that Mars is supposed to rage and flame out, and so she sees very little reason to risk an alliance that might not benefit her house. But Darrow instinctively understands that negotiation is really about appealing to what the needs and wants of the person you're negotiating with are. Play to what they want. Don't make it about what you want or what you want to get out of it. Make sure you highlight what they want.
I'm doing this for you.
Yes, it's more about what you need. And he plays on her needs, which are very basic. She needs food. The people of the forest, House Diana, they have been living off of game. Here's that sneeze. No, here's that sneeze is what I was trying to say.
Creeped up on you.
They have been living off of game, berries, roots, that kind of thing, much like the House Mars people. So he notices that, and he's basically like, hey, help us with this, then we'll help you get House Ceres, and you can have the castle with all the bread. And she says, well, fuck yeah. And with the bargain for bread struck, the two houses plan to combine strength and strike out at Mustang. I have a few quotes here. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that recap?
I dislike Tactus.
Yes, I very strongly. I actually, when we get to it eventually, I have a whole problem with that storyline.
Oh, okay. I'm intrigued.
Just because I'm not sure it's, we talked about it in your recap about Pax, how people have a problem with like, oh, Pax wasn't around long enough for people to be attached to him the way that they are. I disagree with that, but the people that argue, well, Tactus is like, the rehabilitation of Tactus seems unwarranted. I'm with them. I don't really know why it was all of a sudden the thing, but we'll get to it when we get to it. So to just highlight what I was saying about the battle between Mustang and Mars, the battle with House Minerva has broken down into a series of warband skirmishes, neither side gaining enough advantage over the other to ever score a decisive victory. Mustang will not risk the pitched battle that I want, nor can they really be goaded. They're not so easily tempted as my soldiers are to bouts of glory or violence. So even though he's trying to make them, in the old line against line, battle of marathon type situation, Troy, you would have a guy come out and call them all little like whelps or bitches or something. And then the other guy, and then that might enrage them enough to charge you and fall into a trap. It doesn't happen with Mustangs people. They're smart enough to know, get close enough to throw a couple arrows or something, but then stay far enough away where House Mars can't grab you. Because if they grab you and grapple you to the ground, you're dead. Severo explaining here how he is so close with the wolves. So wolves are around, and Severo will like acknowledge them. They'll come up to him almost like he's communicating with them. He says to Darrow, quote, "I killed their pack leader," Severo says when I ask why the wolves follow him. He looks me up and down and flashes me an impish grin from beneath the wolf pelt. "Don't worry, I wouldn't fit in your skin." And that's your Severo moment. Even his like only friend in the world, and the person he clearly is like looking up to and loyal to.
Yeah.
He also wants to remind him, like, I could kill you.
Yeah.
I could kill you. I just wouldn't fit in your skin. So, and he's also saying that about the like the leadership role, like you were talking about. Why is he okay with being the second in command? Because he knows I wouldn't fit your shoes. He's kind of in a comical way saying to him, like, I'm cool with you being in charge because I can't do what you're doing and I don't want to do what you're doing.
And or
at least that's my read. You. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I'd love it. I lost my train of thought. Just went poof.
Seems to be a normal thing with you. Anyhow.
Hell yeah.
Next up I have Darrow talking to, this is that conversation, that honesty amongst friends. Darrow says, "You were picked because you were the smallest boy, the weakest looking, terrible scores, and so small. They drafted you like they drafted all the other low drafts because you'd be easy to kill in the passage. A sacrificial lamb for someone they had plans for, big plans. You killed Priam, Severo. That's why they won't let you be Primus. Am I on target?" And Severo says, "You're on target. I killed him like I'd kill a pretty dog, quick and easy. He spits the bone onto the ground. And you killed Julian. Am I on target? We never speak of the passage again." I love that.
Yeah. Understood.
And here's the part that I thought was interesting and kind of telling about Darrow. His confusion about their relationship. He's desperate to have a friend, Darrow, and I think so is Severo. But Darrow doesn't know this is his confusion. Like, why are you following me? Why are you letting me be in charge? You clearly are capable. Why, you could be a leader. Why don't you do it? And Darrow says, "This boy likes me. He insults me, but he likes me. Even stranger, I desperately want him to like me. Why? I think it's because I feel as though he is the only one, including Roke and Cassius, who understands life. He is ugly in a world where he should be beautiful, and because of his deficiency, he was chosen to die. He in many ways is no better than a Red. I want to tell him I'm a Red. Some part of me thinks he is too." Dun dun dun.
Yeah. Yep. Maybe deep down, that's how that started their first little connection. But
could be.
That's for the future. And that's the first time Darrow has ever said that, like, I want to tell someone. Like, and it was Severo.
And that is really interesting comeback, or when we get to it in the future. There's a sweet moment that comes later that I think is again, we talk about it all the time, but reading it now and thinking about it later and going back and forth like this, I'm like, oh shit, that's the seeds being planted.
Yep.
Another callback to something that I think is kind of funny, kind of like Frag, Battlestar Galactica. At one point, while they're walking through the woods to House Diana, a girl shouts, "Don't bring them up, you chowderheads." So In this world, there is clam chowder. There are New Englanders and there are chowderheads. Um, it just stood out to me. It's a fucking weird. It's a very strange. Like this girl clearly is from Boston.
Did she say chowder?
Yeah, she's from Maine.
Yeah.
Our introduction to Tactus takes place here, and one of his first lines that you can tell he's a real piece of shit. Like I said, he says, "I claim his blade when we decide spoils. I'd also like his scalp if no one else has intentions on it. Tactus sounds like a very unpleasant boy." Yeah, I mean, he's basic, and we'll learn that he likes to collect things.
Yes.
And so just a disturbing little person.
Darrow's ability to stay calm in these situations, like when he was in the war room with Titus and Pollux and Vixis, and he's just like, oh, Vixis, Vixis, Vixis. And then this time around, you get Tactus, and he's like, he's an unpleasant boy. I just imagine he's sitting there all stoic and just like, okay. But in his mind, he's like, I got to watch out for this fucker.
It reminds me of, it's like when you're in a fight and then after the fight, you think about it the next day and you're like, oh, I should have said this. Oh, I should have said that. Oh, this would have been really funny, or this would have been badass. Basically, Darrow is always saying the thing that you would immediately think like later, oh, I wish I had done that. That would have been badass.
Always in the clutch. He knows what to say or do.
Then in terms of what House Mars is supposed to do, Tamara of House Diana says, but then you ruin houses because you can't sustain yourselves. But then you starve because there is nothing more to burn. The sieges, the winter, the advance in technology, it kills your bloodlust, your famous rage. So tell me, why would I shake hands with a wildfire when I can just sit back and watch it run out of things to consume? So again, she's highlighting the strategic situation that Darrow is in.
Yes.
They are a wildfire and they have to continuously consume things in order to stay alive. And they are rapidly dwindling. And then Darrow says, again, she says, yes, yes. She waves an annoyed hand. Ceres is near? And Darrow says, very. And they have bread. I look at the pelts her men wear, which I imagine would be a nice change from all that meat. Her weight shifts on her toes, and I know I have her. Always negotiate with food. I make a note. So again, planning for who knows what in the future. Darrow, like the sling blade, he's making notes. He's thinking about how he's going to turn these things into lessons. Again, that conversation with Fitchner about lessons. Learn. Are you learning? And Darrow, if nothing else, is constantly learning.
And adapting.
I think adapting, evolving. As Mustang said, he is evolving. So that is the close of the chapter 30, House Diana. Do you have anything you want to add here at the end?
No. That pretty much covers it up. We learn how well. Do you think the leader of House Diana, Tamara, however you say it, like the way she encapsulated how Mars is basically burning out, were they witnessing these battles? It's never understood. Did they see what was happening between Minerva? Because they don't know where Ceres is, and I imagine Ceres is on the same distance opposite from Minerva from Mars.
Yeah.
Or is this like some inside track that she knew Mars is supposed to burn out? Or
I had that same question. I was wondering if, like, does she know? Like somebody told her ahead of time, and I wonder maybe like the proctor is telling her, like, hey, don't go out and fight with Mars because they're just eventually going to burn out. Or maybe, but then also these are all like genius level people too. So
true.
She could just be reading the tea leaves a bit here and knowing like, oh, you guys don't have technology. You know, like Mustang really quickly was like, you guys have no technology. You have no horses. You're basically like tribal, and we're at, ancient level. And so maybe she's just able to intuit that these guys are at a lower level than they should be, and that's. But I did flag that too. I was like, how the fuck does she know any of this if she
it's like
doesn't know
picked it
Ceres is like
perfect.
right around the corner?
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad somebody else picked up on it.
Yeah, no, that was a good spot. All right, man. I've got nothing else. If anybody has any artwork, music, we saw a really cool piece of woodwork that somebody did on Instagram.
I wanna buy that. That thing looks
Yeah,
sweet.
it was sweet. It was like a hemanthes flower with a sling blade around it, made out of wood and like stained in the whole thing. It looked really cool. Yeah, if anybody has anything like that they want us to platform or share, please send it to us on Instagram, Twitter, or YouTube at Sons of Ares Pod. Or if you have a tight beam?
Tight beam. Yes, a question
Tight
for
beam.
us.
If you have a tight beam question for us, send it to the Sons of Ares podcast at gmail.com. And if you would like to join us for an episode, want to talk about a chapter you particularly have some thoughts on, insight to, or just that you love, let us know. Hit us up and we'll do it. We'll have you on, whether it's for 5 minutes or the whole thing. Doesn't matter to us. We just want to broaden the conversation and bring people in to talk about something we all enjoy as much as we do. Also, just so you know, you don't need a microphone. You don't need all the fancy stuff. As long as you can do a Zoom, you can do this. It's a pretty easy setup, and I can walk you through it. Other than that, we are back for... Well, I put my book down. I don't know what chapters we're covering next.
Oh, yep. I just had it as well.
I think it's the Fall of Mustang and Antonia. So chapter 31, the Fall of Mustang. Chapter 32, Antonia. That'll be Chuck next time. And then I will be covering... I was going to say,
as a little inside info, we know Cullen's got a very... interesting chapter he wants to specifically cover, so
I hope that I get it timed up. So the chapters I'll be covering are 33, Apologies, and then 34, The North Woods, which I think ironically, I know for a fact, ironically will work out. That's the chapter I wanted.
Hell yeah.
All right, man. Thank you very much for listening. And Chuck, we'll catch you on the flip side.
Have a good one.